Hello Procrastinators, today I have 4 fun cards for you using Tonic Craft Kit number 20, so let's get started. Here's a quick look at the first card we're going to make and some of the supplies that I used. Off camera, I cut my card front and I used the little square panel die in the kit to cut 4 squares out of the front. I used regular heavyweight cardstock, which I probably should have used watercolor paper, but live and learn. My panel did warp a little bit, but I ended up mounting it to some craft foam, so it wasn't a huge deal. I used the Falling Leaves shimmer powder that was included in the kit to sprinkle on the front and then spray some water on it. This is actually my first time playing with shimmer powder, so I was just experimenting with what I could do with it. I didn't want a whole lot of white space on my card front, so I sprayed some water on my craft mat and the excess that was sitting on my craft mat, and then took a brush and just kind of dabbed it around. Once I was happy with my results, I heat set my panel. As I said earlier, I attached my front panel to a piece of craft foam. I buy this by the roll off of Amazon. It's a large roll, 36 by 60 inches, so I have plenty on hand all the time. I prefer this when working with large panels over foam tape or foam squares because it's easier to work with and it goes through the mail much better. Off screen, I cut a piece of tan brown cardstock that was included in the kit, and then here I'm showing that I use the decorative panel dies that are meant for the box that the kit makes and cut those out, and I had lined them up with the panel that I already made, and then I'm just gluing that watercolor panel with the foam on the back of it to the brown panel with the decorative pieces cut out. And then for a little bit of shine, I added some Champagne Shine Pure Sheen Sequins. And I messed around with that for quite a while trying to get my layout on those, but I edited a lot of that out so you didn't have to bear with me for that boring experience. Here I'm showing you the sentiment stamps from kit number 18, and I'm going to be using the Thank You sentiment. Looking back on this, I should have stamped my sentiment before I assembled my card, but live and learn again. Because I have a stamp platform, it all worked out in the end anyway, but it would have been easier to stamp my sentiment before I assembled my card. I am using the Nuvo Hybrid Ink in Acorn Brown. This came from the number 15 kit, the Memento Bookmaker kit. And then to finish this card off, I am using the Crystal Drops in Dirty Bronze that came with the kit number 20. I do find these little bottles hard to squeeze compared to the larger bottles. It doesn't help that I craft in a cold basement, and if you also craft somewhere where it is cold, it helps to warm up the bottles. If you're a woman, you could put them in your bra. I know that sounds a little strange, but if you do not want to put them in your bra, you can warm them up in a cup of warm water. Just make sure that the water does not get into the bottle. But I do find warming them up makes a world of difference. And here's a look at our finished first card. Here I'm shining my phone flashlight on the card, trying to show you that beautiful shimmer powder. The camera just doesn't do it justice. For the second card, I took a bunch of these stitched leaf dies from Craft Kit number 12, and I cut them out of Post-it tape. And now I'm just applying them randomly all over my card layer. Probably noticed that I have a lot more leaves here than I started with. After I had applied the first set of leaves, I cut out some more because I just didn't feel that I had filled the page enough. Once I got all of my leaves on the page, I burnished them down really well to make sure that they have stuck. Then I pulled out my distress inks in Mowed Lawn, Peeled Paint, Forest Moss, and Walnut Stain, as I will be doing some ink blending with my Amazon makeup brushes over the masks that I applied. Starting with Mowed Lawn, I am going to go from one end of my card layer to the other, and I will move into Peeled Paint and then Forest Moss to give it somewhat of an ombre look. And then I will go around the edges with Walnut Stain to give it a somewhat of an aged look. With the walnut stain, I started off using the Amazon makeup brush to go around the edges, but I just wasn't happy with the look I was getting. The makeup brushes give a very soft look. You can get a darker look by going over and over again, but I just prefer my edges to be darker. So you'll see here in a minute that I will switch over to using the Mini Distress ink blending tool. Once I was done ink blending, I took the nozzle of my Nuvo sprayer and I sprinkled some water on the background. And then lifted some of that color with a paper towel. After that, I used a craft pick to lift all those paper masks to reveal that nice, crisp white paper underneath. Off screen, I used the two dragonfly dies to make the little dragonflies and then the dragonfly outlines. If you use the two dragonfly dies together, that's how you get the outlines that you see here. And I cut them out and arranged them on my card to my liking. And then I used Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to attach them to my card. Next, I'm stamping my sentiment, and I chose the Love stamp from the Tonic Craft Kit, and I'm using my Tim Holtz stamping platform to stamp it. I will be embossing the sentiment, so I'm using my anti-static powder tool first. I often have a little bit of issue with this tool getting clogged in the top, so I just removed the top a little bit and sprinkled some powder on first. As you saw, I stamped in Versamark, and then I'm using a detail black embossing powder from the Personal Stamp Exchange. For a finishing touch, I added the Nuvo Crystal Drops in Dirty Bronze that came with the craft kit. and also some in caramel latte. And that finishes up card number 2, so here's a quick look at that. As you can see, card number 3 is very similar to card number 2 except for its ladybug, so we are going to speed right through this one. For the ink blending on this one, I used Bundled Sage, Shabby Shutters, Forest Moss, and Walnut Stain. For the red Love Bug sentiment I'm covering in Nuvo Glitter Gloss right now, I use the Sizzix Wingo Dingo Alphabet Set. I also covered the ladybugs in the glitter gloss pen as well. To make sure I got my letters straight, I used a T-ruler, but the T-ruler didn't sit flush with my paper, so you will see that I later changed to a ruler and taped it to my glass mat using the grid to keep everything straight. Sorry about my head there, but it's crucial for me to look straight over the paper to get everything straight. So here I'm using Nuvo Crystal Drops in Ebony Black and a ball stylus, a very small one, to go over the little black dots on the ladybugs to add a little bit of texture to them. And then to put some final touches on the card, I am going to use the Nuvo Crystal Drops in Dirty Bronze, and these came with the kit. And that finishes off card number 3, and here's a final look at that one. Starting off card number 4, I die cut 4 of these shadow dragonflies, and I used watercolor cardstock this time, and I'm using the Falling Leaves shimmer powder that came in the kit, and I'm sprinkling it generously all over the watercolor cardstock. And then I took my Nuvo sprayer and generously sprayed it with water. And I do mean generously. And then I picked up the paper and I just gently tipped it all around. I wanted a very loose watercolor look. As with the first card, I didn't want any white on this card front, so I took more of the Falling Leaves shimmer powder and put some more on there, and then I sprayed it again very generously and tipped my card again. Because I wanted a very color saturated but loose watercolor look, I started heat setting without sopping up any of that extra water. I wanted that puddly, ripply water look on the card. There was a ton of extra water on my mat though, so I did need to sop that up. Otherwise it was going to take a long time to dry my card. Once dry, I matted it on a piece of black cardstock and recut the dragonflies out of that black cardstock. And then I mounted some craft foam behind that black cardstock to give it dimension. Again, in hindsight, I should have waited on to add that craft foam on the back. Now I am stamping the dragonfly stamp from the kit through the holes in that card panel onto my card base. Using Ranger Gold embossing powder to emboss the dragonflies onto my card base. And I won't show the process for the rest of the dragonflies, but it's the same process. Lining up my card layer, putting the dragonfly in the hole, using the Versamark ink, sprinkling on the gold embossing powder, and heat setting. Here's all 4 dragonflies embossed, and now I'm just going to attach my card front to my card base using some Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, just making sure that all of those dragonflies line up nicely with my card front. I finished it off with a Hello die from Tonic Craft Kit number 19, and I used the Fresh Mint pearlescent card from this craft kit, and here's a final look at the card. Thank you for watching my video, and if you like it, please subscribe, comment, and give it a thumbs up. Thank you.